All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Let's Talk Fabulous show, where we talk about a range of subjects. And I love that about this show. Today, we are talking about healing from divorce. Dun, 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 right? Let me know in the comments. Do you have experience with divorce? Because as of just a few years ago, research done in the United States shows that the U.S. is still one of the top countries where divorce is highly prevalent. There's still at least 50% of people who get married who also end up getting divorced. And I'm actually not going to pass judgment on that because I believe we're all here and we learn things through our experiences. But oh my goodness, if that many of us are experiencing divorce in whatever way, whether it was you being married and getting divorced, or maybe you were simply in a family that got divorced, or maybe you have some other powerful experience of divorce, we are talking about it today. We are holding space for your healing through that because that is absolutely possible. And let me know in the comments, do you also have experience with divorce? Let's talk. All right. Hello to today's panel. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Hello.
This is going to be I say fun, we're talking about healing from divorce. I say fun conversation because these are deep conversations that are powerful and meaningful. And to me, that is fun. So I am grateful that each of you are here today, and we're going to be able to learn from everyone. Before we get into the depths of this conversation, though, let's just quickly go around, and I'd love for each of you to just say a little bit about yourself, what you do, and where are you located in the world. And I'll start with Arnitris.
I am Arnitris Strong. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a certified relationship coach for single professionals over 30.
Love it. And you said you're at Atlanta, right? Atlanta, Georgia?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
I love it. And I'm in Southern California, so we already got that diversity. I love it. Okay, Stanley.
Good afternoon, Kim. I'm located in the Baltimore, Maryland area, and I just like to introduce myself. I like to level set on 2 points. Is I've never been divorced. I've been happily married for over 30 years, but my parents were divorced, and what brought them happiness broke my heart. And that did lead to a book that titled Divorce is Worse Than Death. I just want to highlight the cover because there's 2 hearts on the cover. One is undamaged, and that represents someone who is celebrating their divorce. And I know a lady who she congratulates everyone because her divorce was the best thing. But then there's a heart with a Band-Aid that is for that lady who told me one time, says, Stan, I wish my husband had died. He would have been my hero, but now he's a piece of crap. Well, she didn't say crap, but she said crap makes good fertilizer. So he's not even crap. So as we leave here today, I want everyone to remember that everyone has their own DNA, and please give people empathy to actually grieve for their divorce. That's it.
I love that, Stanley. You're already starting with like the deep nuggets of stuff. Tell everyone, where are you located?
Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland. Awesome. Okay. And moving on to Leslie, tell us a little about who you are and where you are.
I'm Leslie Welch. I'm a certified spiritual divorce coach, a CDC certified divorce coach, and a life coach here in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm also here. I work with women. I work with women on empowering them, taking their life back and moving forward to a new beginning. I help them create that through healing and coaching. And I'm excited to be here because it's such an opportunity to let people know they don't have to stay stuck, that there is hope, and they have limited possibilities and opportunities that are just waiting for them to open.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you're here, Leslie. Thank you for that. And last but so not least, Corrie, it's nice to meet you. Tell us about you.
Hello. I'm in Utah. I'm from Southern California and I've lived all over the South. So I love Georgia. I love all sorts of places, but I'm a divorce coach. So I'm a single mom of 5, under 14. I have 1 boy and 4 girls. I've been coaching for 5 years. Yes, I have my kids full time. So I also help people who have gone through a divorce, who want to say hell yes to life again, who want to make more money, I help people also like post divorce dating. So, and co-parenting, nervous system regulation, mindset, emotion control. I do a lot of body work with my clients. Either way, I'm here for it all, because divorce, for me, in my experience, has definitely been much of a rebirth. And I'm grateful for the life that I'm saying yes to, because I chose to say no to my marriage.
Oh, I love that. That was great. Thank you for that, Corrie. Okay.
Yeah.
And I see we have lots of comments coming through. And we have Tamara Hunter with us saying there is hope. So just for anyone out there right now who's in that space of the thick of it of going through your divorce, again, whether it be your parents or your own divorce, whatever it might be, something that's turning your worlds upside down, there's absolutely always hope. So I want to just go around and we don't need to like dwell on this part, but I know for me, when I went through my divorce years ago, I described it as hell. It felt like hell. It was horrible. And so do each of you have one like word or feeling that comes up for you as you think of like what your experience of going through divorce was like? And I'd love for each of you to just share that.
Okay.
And I'll start with Leslie. Leslie, how about you?
Okay. Yeah. My divorce for me was probably the most traumatic thing I've ever been through. And I have certainly been through many things in my life. Health issues. I was through brain surgery, melanoma. I was a second marriage, and it was a gray divorce. So it was really traumatic because I lost my hopes and my dreams and a lot of friends and family. And divorce is the one thing that affects every single area of your life. And at that time, I had no experience in being a certified divorce coach. So it was unexpected. It rocked my world. It was heartbreaking because it was infidelity. And I went through a lot of things, but most of all through that journey, what had happened was I lost my identity and I had to reclaim it and find myself.
Okay. Yep. How many people can relate to losing their identity through divorce or feeling that on some level? Yeah. Yeah. You hit that nail on the head. I was just thinking that as Leslie. Okay. Well, thank you. And we're going to hear more about your experience too, but thank you for getting us started with that. Who else would like to share of what was your initial experience of, wow, I'm experiencing divorce right now? Okay. I'm going to call. Yeah. Arnitris.
I think that my initial experience was I felt like a failure. For someone who had always been a high achiever, successful in anything that I set my mind to, I felt like a failure for one of the first times in my life. And that was kind of hard to navigate through. It took me a long time to navigate through that.
I think that's an experience a lot of people also can relate to. So thank you for that. And I'm going to go to Corrie. Corrie, how about you?
Hi. Well, initially, my experience, I had a lot of like high control, like religious upbringing. So my experience with divorce challenged everything I knew God to be, right? And it challenged all of my belief systems as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as a friend. And so the day that my ex-husband drove away, got in the car and left, and it was just me and my kids, and I had 5 kids under 10 at the time. So it was a lot of trauma to work through with my kids for sure. But I had 16 days straight of diarrhea. Like my body just froze. And I'm like, is that too much information? Our bodies like really hold on. So when you talk about trauma and it's like the most traumatic thing you went through, our bodies like keep the score. I'm a big believer in emotional, like it just remembers. And so when my ex-husband left, it just like, that's what my body did. It was like able to breathe. And I learned very quickly that the reason, like, you know, through marriage, your yes to stay married is only as powerful as no and your option to leave. And my option to leave opened up like an incredible world for me, just through my experience. And I can go on forever about that, which I won't hear, but that's what I experienced. 16 days of the bathroom.
Oh, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. I'm gonna give it one of these. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure someone out there and all of us can relate to things we never expected happening through our divorce process. So yeah, huge. Okay, Stanley, I love it that you were coming here today with a different perspective of divorce. Will you share with everyone just, you know, what was some of the initial experience that you had? And I'm going to put you in the hot seat now.
Well, I guess for me, it was death of a family, because at the end, there was no ceremony. There was no coming together to grieve or talk about what happened, why it happened. It was more of a, hey, it happened, get over it, suck it up, and continue your life. But there was a couple of things that I encountered as far as, and I was around 18 at the time, and one of my friends, and I didn't tell any of my friends about a divorce, my pending divorce, because I was ashamed, because if anybody's parents were supposed to stay married, it was mine. And a friend asked me one night, he said, my mother said that your parents are getting divorced. I said, yeah. Reluctantly, I said, yeah, but I was just embarrassed to tell you. And so it was one of those things that from where I was at, that was something that I did not control, and I did years later. And when it comes to divorce, one thing I've learned, and as you're learning already, each person's situation is different. You can't judge anyone, and that, you know, for my parents, you know, several years later, they said theirs was pretty much boiled down to pride. I mean, there was no violence, but it was a different situation. And when it comes to divorce, I've learned that there's no one size fits all.
Right.
Over you, Kim.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that, Stanley. Absolutely. I want to highlight, we have Rebecca in the comments with us saying that loss of control, I guess, in her personal life, that's some of what she experienced. And, you know, Tamara is also adding that divorce is a journey of finding ourselves. She found her identity through mine. I agree. When I say that mine was hell, it wasn't that my ex was doing anything wrong. He was actually, I think, did a fantastic job through it from my perspective. It was my own personal journey and experience of what was what was unfolding. That was my experience. I know it's not the same for everyone, but let's get into, what did you learn? What did you learn about yourself, and anything else that comes to mind for you through your divorce? I'm going to leave it open for someone to volunteer. Arnitris, I saw a hand. We're going to go with you.
Well, I think that initially I did the thing that many women do when we kind of blame ourselves when the marriage or relationship doesn't work. And I remember having a conversation with my mom, and she said that, you know, there was absolutely nothing that you could have done that would have prevented your ex-husband from cheating. And that really released the weight off of me. And so I learned that, and I heard it, you know, growing up forever, you know, you're only in control of yourself. The only person that you can control is yourself. So, but that kind of solidified it for me. And just her having that conversation and saying, you know, there's nothing that you could have done that would have prevented him from cheating, released the weight from me. And then it really, I thought about it last week when we had Mother's Day, and I was thinking about, you know, the best advice that my mother had ever given me. And I didn't think about it at the time, but I think that that probably was a hard realization for her as well, because my parents got divorced when I was 17. So it's probably something that she had to think about herself. There was nothing that she could have done that would have prevented my dad from cheating.
Yeah. That's powerful too, because we want to like fix things. We want to understand things. And what you're saying is it's not all in our control, and not everything's going to make 100% sense too. Yeah. Stanley?
Yeah. When I was 18, I knew a lady, she a rock star. She was awesome. And we were talking about her divorce. And she uttered these words. She said, "Stan, divorce is worse than death." And as 18-year-old, I said, "Are you crazy?" She said, "Stan, let me tell you, divorce is worse than death, because in death, you don't have to worry about seeing your best friend having dinner with your ex-husband at your favorite restaurant." And 2 years later, when my parents divorced, I realized what she was talking about from a divorce is worse than death aspect. But it goes back to what which was just spoke, that you can't control other people and what they do to you, and that's what makes divorce horrible.
Yeah. We can't control what other people do. We're giving it one of these. I love those clips. Leslie, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this. What happened with me was so very painful. And if anybody's ever heard me speak before, I say I gave birth to 3 kids. And that was nothing compared to the pain that I had inside of me, literally. So because it was like there was an emptiness. I was in such a state of shock. And just like Corrie, there was 3 weeks I was trying to get by moment because I was in so much shock that I didn't realize it. But out of all of this, what came down to it was both of us had to take responsibility for our parts that we played in this, because he spent years trying to make me happy. I spent years trying to make him happy. So this was the first time for me to really not take care of everybody else in my life, being mom, grandma, wife, half business owner and stuff. It was the first time for me to really step out and take responsibility for my own happiness. And through that all, I had to learn self-care, self-love, and I had to stop judging myself and judging my ex. So I think through the whole experience, even though it was so traumatic and stuff, I just grew so much and had the opportunity to really do that deep dive, to do that deep work inside myself, to not just heal those parts that were broken of me, but those really deep parts where we start getting into inner child and things.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking about judgment, judgment of other people, I want to highlight this comment from Rebecca, who's with us right now. She is saying that she felt a lot of judgment from family, and that was a hurtful experience at the time. And I know, Leslie, you were talking about losing, friends and family and all the people that were part of your support system. And so it's kind of like this crumbling of the world that you had built up that you thought would always be there. And so now what do you do when that is like the rug is pulled out from under you?
Right. And I will add to that. The thing is, all of a sudden you're waking up the next morning and your security is not there anymore. So it's like waking up to a bad dream going, is this real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We have so much more to share, but I'm going to take a moment just to recognize that this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we'll be right back. is that we're talking about healing from divorce and losing what we thought was our support system and who are we and all that, right? Fits perfectly in with mental health awareness, because what a journey divorce can take us on mentally, right? So let's talk a little bit more about the healing aspect and things that you guys did or what showed up for you that really supported you in healing from your divorce. And I'm gonna jump over to Corrie first. Corrie, what do you have to share on that note?
Hi, this is probably my favorite part of like what works, what healing is. First of all, I've learned really quickly that a lot of times healing is just realizing that you're not the same person that you once were.
Oh.
And so healing from divorce taught me, or I learned like huge levels of acceptance. I learned how to grieve intentionally. So when I talk about healing, I teach my clients, students, or whoever. That's why I was able to move through the emotional pain, because I taught myself that grieving was okay. And sometimes grieving looked like eating a whole pizza in bed for 6 months straight. I'm like, and giving myself permission not to judge how I was coping. So, because your coping mechanisms are going to look differently, and people are actually going to judge your coping mechanisms. And that's okay. They're supposed to, because they don't understand what you're going through. People are just making assumptions like, oh, there she goes again, eating another pizza. I'm like, yeah, I'm really good at that. In fact, I'm like, if there's one thing I'm good at this phase post-divorce is I know how to eat a whole pizza in bed. And so, and just giving people like permission to judge you, to like not have to go through the experience with you, but I just went head first, all in on myself after divorce, because divorce is about you. It's not about your ex. And I made it about me. And that was very challenging when you're in a committed relationship, going from like caring about another person to going all in on you. So again, it's a fun topic that we could probably go on forever about.
Absolutely. I love the way that you said, yeah, and I'm good at that. Rather than going, oh my gosh, they're right. That is so wrong about me. You just owned it and you let it be. And that's like that self-love coming through. That was beautiful mental affirmation that you did there.
Yeah. And you have to remember, if I can just add one piece to that when just like, because divorce is very much a death, but it's also other people are experiencing a similar death in relationship to you. And that's okay. It's supposed to be that way. That's what I mean by allowing people to have their experience of your divorce, because it has nothing to do with you.
There's so much gold in that. Thank you for sharing that, Corrie. Okay, Stanley, I can see you like just cheering and chomping at the bit. And I want to get to you in a moment. Before we hear from you, let's see a video from Stanley, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Is worse than death. Divorce is the death of a family. I know it killed mine. I've never been divorced, but my parents were. What brought them happiness broke my heart, and still does. But I learned 4 things. First, no 2 heartbreaks are the same. There is no x-ray for a broken heart. Second, give people permission to grieve. Just because no one's died, you still have a reason to grieve. Third, get help from a certified therapist. And by the way, vodka is not therapy. And finally, I learned firsthand, divorce is worse than death.
Stanley. Okay, would you like to elaborate on some of that?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Of course, so please.
In 2017, well, first I learned no 2 breaks are the same. In 2017, had a motorcycle accident, broke my leg. Motorcycle was okay, thank God. But the paramedics showed up, and when they examined my leg, they couldn't see any damage. They took me to the ER room. An ER doctor looked at my x-rays and he said, you are going to need surgery and you will lose control of your foot. I left the hospital that day in a wheelchair, and my wife, very smart wife, said, we're getting a second opinion. The second doctor looked at the MRIs. He said, you have a unique break. I said, well, of course, I'm a unique guy. He didn't laugh. He said, you will need surgery. You will be in a wheelchair for 3 months and months of therapy. I said, well, wait a minute. A colleague of mine just broke her leg and she was walking after 8 weeks. And that's when he looked at me and said, no two breaks are the same. And I realized that whether there's a heart break or a broken bone, that no two breaks are the same. And that, but they both hurt. But with a broken bone, there's technology such as X-ray or MRI to show you the damage. With a broken heart, there's no technology to show you an image of the damage.
Yeah.
And because there's no image, you need to help people realize that the hurt is real. And you do that, in my opinion, with my second tip, by give them permission to grieve. Because too many people often downplay the damage of a heartbreak because they can't see it. And
Right.
just imagine if I'm thankful that the paramedics took me to the ER room, even though they couldn't see any damage. But I've learned when I'm talking to someone who's divorced and depressed, that when I tell them divorce is worse than death, their countenance changes to one of relief, or somebody understands what I'm going through.
Yeah.
My wife tells me I'm giving people permission to grieve when I do that. And by giving people permission to grieve, they realize that the hurt is real and they can seek help. And you seek help. My third point is seek help from a certified therapist. Now, beware of well-meaning friends, because they may be as ill-equipped to help you with a broken heart as a broken bone. And a certified therapist cannot show you the damage, but they can start the examination process of the break, confirm that you have a legitimate concerns. And the third part, which really helped me during my own healing with a broken leg, is help you manage the recovery, how long it's going to take. So I want to just recap real quick that there's no two breaks that are the same. There's no X-ray for a heartbreak. Give people permission to grieve. Just because no one's died, you still have a reason to grieve. And third, seek help from a certified therapist, and vodka is not a certified therapist. Kim.
Well, and Stanley, so I have to ask you, was vodka ever a therapist for you at the beginning at some point?
Yes, ma'am. When the night I told my friend that my parents were getting divorced, he said, "Oh, that sucks. Here, have a shot of vodka," or tater juice as we call it. So yes, it was.
Well, what I love about what I'm hearing from all of you is, there's a lot of overlap, of course, and yet each person has their unique experience. And what I think is so key to highlight, because we hear everyone saying that, no two experiences are the same, what it's calling forth is how important it is for you to be in tune with your own experience, right? So we had Corrie saying, like, yeah, if you're going to eat pizza for 6 months, then own it, like, right? And let that be part of the healing process, and recognizing what doesn't serve you, right? So vodka could just be like numbing the feelings versus allowing you to really feel and own your feelings. So much goodness here. I love it. I love it. What's coming up, Arnitris or Leslie? Anything new coming up for you that you'd like to share in the healing realm?
Yeah, I would like to share this because I do energy healing work. I do Reiki. I do Akashic Records. And I agree that sometimes you need a certified therapist for things, but I would debate that because not everybody needs a therapist, okay? And what I mean by that, therapist is two different things. So if I think somebody needs a therapist, I'm going to send you there. But what I've been trained to do with all my designations and everything, and even as a CDC certified divorce coach that's recognized by the American Bar, is to help them get through that divorce process, period. Save them money, get them through it, help them work with the spouse, especially if there's children involved. So that, I will say sometimes people need both, but I have ran into cases, I'm going to tell you, from people that have been to therapists, counselors and stuff, and it didn't work for them. Just like a divorce coach might not work for the person that needs the therapist. So what I want to say is, for anybody listening, be open, because there is also many other holistic modalities. And I knew for me, I had to heal body, mind, and spirit. So, and there's several different bodies once you get into it. We've got the inner child, the emotional, the mental, the physical, the ego, once you start going deep into that stuff. So I just want to keep the floor open that there is so much help out there. Absolutely. And it's up to that individual and their situation, what they need.
Yeah, no, I thank you for speaking to that. I almost called you Joy. Joy is behind the scenes helping us out. Thank you, Joy, for what you're doing. But thank you for sharing that, Leslie, because ultimately, what I hear from both of you is about, going to someone who has the skills, the tools to help you out. And absolutely not everyone is going to be a fit. I know when I went through my divorce, I saw at least 2 therapists that were not a fit. And then the third one, boom, it was so wonderful. So I always want to tell people, if you are in the space of finally seeking professional help, don't just stop with the first person. If it didn't work out, find someone else, because fit is a thing. So it definitely matters. Okay. And Arnitris, we haven't heard from you in a moment. So I would love to hear from you. Like, what are some things that helped you in the healing process?
I think that one of the first things that helped me in the healing process was, I remember having a conversation with my favorite aunt, and I was just telling her how angry I was. And she said, "You're hurt." And I had not identified or acknowledged that, we understand now that anger is a secondary emotion. And so before we feel that, we feel something else. And that's exactly what it was. She gave me permission to say that I was hurt. And by acknowledging that hurt, I think that was the real first step to my healing beginning.
That word permission keeps coming up. You're all saying permission. How did you finally, each of you, come to that conclusion? Like, how did you obtain permission, or the awareness of permission? Did someone say it to you, or did you finally realize you had to just give it to yourself?
Yeah, I think I just had to give it to myself. I don't remember anyone ever telling me you have permission to be hurt or you have permission to be angry. I gave it to myself.
Okay, I love it. And we're going to give it one of these. Okay, we are, I'm loving this conversation. I can't believe how much we've already covered, and we're still only halfway through. Like, we're just halfway through. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground already. So panelists, we have more we're going to discuss. I want each of you to be ready to share what some golden nuggets are that came through your healing process that you have not shared yet. Be ready to speak to those. We're going to go to another commercial, and I'm also gonna ask our audience today, let us know in the comments what helped you through your divorce, whether that be, again, whether you were getting divorced or maybe your parents were. What helped you? Let us know in the comments, and we'll be right back. We have literally hundreds of people here with us today. So I just want to acknowledge all of you. Thank you for being here. And I'm glad to hear that, or just to see that this conversation is resonating with you. And I want to highlight another comment, a couple comments from our audience. We have Lisa saying, everyone deals with things in their own way. And I completely agree. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier. about everyone having their own experience, but of course, having to own and give themselves permission. And we have Carolyn with us saying, you have to be open for help in order to heal, or you have to open for help. And yeah, I agree. Anyone want to speak to that, being open or dealing with things in your own way? Stanley.
Yeah, just real quick, just kind of for me goes back to what Leslie was saying earlier about seeking help. And my daughter taught me a lesson many years ago when I criticized her diet plan. And she told me very quickly, she said, "Dad, you work your plan and let me work mine." And I think with what, Leslie I think what I really appreciate her comments, because you do have to work your plan. You got to work and seek out your therapy and as you mentioned, it may be through you may need a second or third opinion. But back to you, Kim.
Yeah. And Stanley, thank you for being, I'm going to say, vulnerable and sharing that. I like your daughter. I like your daughter for saying, don't tell me what to do. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I got to highlight the comment on the screen right now. So Gloria is saying that what has helped her, let me put it back up there. So what has helped her are good friends and being on her own and getting to know who she is at this stage of life. Yeah. Good friends. Let's talk about that for a moment. So support system. I know, Leslie, you mentioned going through your divorce and all of a sudden all the people that were there were no longer there.
Right.
Tell us a little more about that and how you recovered.
Well, I did. I kept my girlfriends, right? But our couple friends, they fell off. And the biggest loss for me, because I had been such a part of my ex's family. I mean, I'd been with him for 32 years and we've been married for 30. And so I did everything. I mean, I hosted, I did all the celebrations and everything. And I can remember the first holidays. It was like, oh my God, it was just, it changed everything. It changed the family dynamics and everything. And I mean, yes, I'm still cordial with them, but it did break it apart, and I think too, with adult children, that can be really, really hard, because my children were adults when this happened. And I will tell you, they were, really affected by the divorce also.
Yeah, it affects everybody. Absolutely. Corrie, what are I want to hear what your thoughts are.
About relationships, right? That's kind of what we were leading into in support systems. Well, one thing I quickly saw, because I had so many young kids, people I felt like came out of nowhere and helped my kids. I didn't know. I was a grieving mom, right? I couldn't address my children's grief because I was dying inside. And so people coming and taking my kids for a day and letting them play, right? One thing that I also learned, like with relationships, is to keep your circle small. Like, have a friend that has gone, like seek out someone who has already gone through what you're going through, and find that person to like ask all the questions. Cause I kept asking, like, is this normal? Is this normal? Is over here normal? And I was really shocked that it was as normal as people kept telling me, but it was coming from people who had already experienced what I had gone through. So I just kept my circle small. I had a sister who made my ex wrong. I had a friend who held space, understanding that my ex was a person and did not talk trash on him. I had like someone who had gone before to answer all my questions. So I had someone kind of address all of these individual needs as support. And then I got professional help on top of that. But when it came to like friendships and circles, I allowed people just to love on my kids, like, because I felt like I could not do it. I was just suffocating. And that was a grace that now when people are going through support, I don't call them and say, hey, let me know what kind of help you need. I just send them a lasagna or their house and pick up their kids, because that question, if you're noticing other people are going through divorce and asking like, hey, how can I help? What can I need? You can't make decisions. You're making decisions at that phase of your life. People try to make plans with me, a week from Friday. And I'm like, call me Friday morning and I'll let you know if we can go to lunch. But you're asking me to plan 7 days ahead when I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. So that's kind of when people kept asking like what I've learned. I'm like, if you're watching other people go through divorce, don't send love and light, send lasagna and chocolate. That's like my whole theory, because it's too overwhelming to make decisions. It depends on what phase you're in, of the separation and the divorce process, for sure.
I just want to add one thing to Corrie's, because I think it's important for the single moms that are going through it and dealing with children. There are so many support groups out there, and I know divorcecare.org. A lot of the churches do that, and they have programs for the kids too. And that can be a wonderful outlet, because you can be going to the class at the same time the kids are having their support system. And I recommend them to people that, can't afford other sources and stuff, because they are a great group. But like I said, check with the churches and everything, because they have support groups just for
great
families.
resource. Yeah.
And they'll give you hugs. Like, that's one thing that I realized. Divorce kind of blew me wide open. It didn't shut me down. All of a sudden, I wanted to hug people. And I'm like, wait a second, I need like that many hugs. And so I love what Leslie added to that, like finding a church community. It doesn't matter if you're religious. Just put yourself in a place where other people reside that can hold space for you wherever you're at. And generally church is pretty good, right? Generally churches, like, they're just going to love on you regardless of where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Arnitris, how about you? It's good to see you back upright. I saw you sideways for a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. For me, honestly, I just need to get away. The first time I moved to Atlanta was during my separation. And so I just got a whole new support group, because I think that there were just too many reminders of the heartbreak and everything around it. So I just moved to a totally new city and got a new support group.
Good for you. Yeah. I've had moments of that too. And I want to encourage people, trust the new nudges to do something new. Years ago, when I was going through a heartbreak, all of a sudden I had this desire to start hiking. And that might sound like a very basic thing, but it was something that I had not previously done. You too? Yeah. And what I did, I literally was searching online, hiking in my area, and I came upon a church group, a church that I had been wanting to go to, but I hadn't yet. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Let me connect with them. And one thing led to another. And so it's, when you're in that space of everything crumbling down, let those new things that you might question, just, hey, experiment, explore. Yeah.
Yeah. I will add to that too, Kim. I will always tell my clients to find at least one thing a week. It's a weekly assignment that's going to really bring you joy just for you, whether it's something you did as a kid or something you can do with your kids. It is so important that we start looking toward the future and other goals when we're going through this.
Absolutely. Stanley, how about you? I know you come from a different perspective, and you were talking about being embarrassed to share it with other people, but yet eventually other people picked up on it. And how did that help you when you started allowing other people to support your journey?
Well, shortly after the divorce, I went into the U.S. Army. And at that time, my personal life was not going in a good direction. I mean, vodka. But my mom, she sent me a Bible, and eventually I started going to church. And the great thing about that is it changed my mindset and my direction. And I actually ended up getting a whole new set of friends. And you said something about hiking. I found myself, and I got to the point that what I found comfortable was walking in the mall all by myself, but I found it to be so enjoyable. And for for me, that was very healing. And also, I continue, and discussing divorce in forums like this continues to always help.
Good. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because that I could see someone going, "What? How is that going to do any good for me to walk in a mall?" Right? But it doesn't matter. If it feels good, it feels good. It's helping. It's yeah. Okay, let's take a quick moment, take a look at our comments and see what's showing up. Yeah, and you know what? Going back to some of what Corrie was saying, Carolyn's reiterating, reach out and have a listening ear for those who need love. It's being in that space of recognizing, okay, like especially if you've already been through it, right? Then that other person may have no clue what they need. They just know they're suffering, they're hurting, it's challenging. And so what a gift it is when someone else can say, hey, you know what? I'd love to offer some assistance, or, I love that. I just wanted to speak to that part. Corrie, were you going to say something else there?
Yeah, just going along with the need for community. Trauma witnessed is trauma healed. So that's why I look at community is so vital during this period of your life, whether it doesn't, and it could be even 10 years after your divorce. Sometimes your trauma that you experience just needs a place to land, because divorce sometimes makes people feel crazy, right? You're like, did that happen? Was it really that bad? Where you start second guessing yourself, you start questioning things. You're not quite sure like who you are now. Mm-hmm. It's like you die 1,000 deaths of like your identity. And so that's why, again, if there's one principle to community to remember, is that allow your trauma to be witnessed and just held, because that will help you feel less crazy.
Yeah. That is powerful. Okay, so we are nearing the end of the show. We're not done yet. We are nearing the end of the show. So I want to give today's panelists just a heads up. When we come back, I'm going to show another little video, but when we come back, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you learned about yourself as a result of, making it through that healing process? And number 2, would you ever get married again? And I realize this may not apply to you, Stanley, but for the ladies here, I'd love to know the answers to those 2. So we're going to hear a little bit from Leslie, and then we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Coach Leslie Welch, certified divorce and life coach. I have been where you are right now. I have been through the heartbreak of divorce. I have had my life shattered and lost my hopes and dreams, and I began again. I picked up all those pieces and I moved on, and I know you can too. And that's what I want for you. There are so many blessings. Once you do the work, you get through the divorce and you do the healing. My biggest gift that I've ever received was the gift I gave myself of self-love, self-care, and stepping out into all that I was created to be. And that's what I know is possible for you.
Thank you for that, Leslie.
Welcome.
Leslie, let's start with you. What's one thing you learned about yourself? And I want to challenge everyone to go beyond learning who you are. What did you learn about who you are? So what's one thing you learned about yourself, and would you ever get married again?
Well, I think the biggest thing I learned about myself was how strong I really was. And I learned that I could, no matter what, I would be okay. No matter what, I knew I'd be okay, and I knew I could do this. The biggest thing I learned was to really take care of myself, and I learned how to dive within and really do that deep healing, but also learn who I really was, and it opened me up, because there was times in my life, when I think back, that I really didn't like myself. But my divorce propelled me into a whole different career. So what happened, instead of me going outside trying to find everybody to try to help me, which didn't work for me. So what I did was and Kim knows me very well, I have so many different spiritual modalities that I have studied. I've had so many coaching programs and everything I've been through. I have had tremendous opportunities to work with the best coaches in the world. Kim has been one of them. And just so many other amazing people. And what I learned was, I grew up thinking who I was. This is who you are. And being in a marriage where you're with somebody that's constantly criticizing you, I had taken on all those labels. And I learned that was all just BS. That wasn't who I was anymore. And that's never who I was. So it allowed me to really reconnect with my identity, step into my power, and use what I learned through my life, through everything I've been through, to help others change their lives and shift their mind shifts so that they can move on and heal and have an abundant life.
And would you ever get married again?
Well,
you don't have to get it. You don't have to.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I did think about it, and I am very spiritual. And my goals in my life right now, my purpose and my passion, I'm living it. But I am open if I could meet that person that's going to be my best friend that shares the same interests, because relationships are a spiritual connection. And I think we all need that love and intimacy. I found it within myself and my higher power. So I always say now, through this all, my biggest gift was finding my connection to myself and my God for me, right? So I said, I cannot have a better soulmate than that, but learning to be your own best friend. So I'm not going to say never, because I don't know what the universe has in store for me.
You know what? That's an excellent answer. So I heard a maybe in there. And by the way, this is no right or wrong. It's just, I think everyone is curious, right? Like, should I ever consider that again? Or, so that's all. Thank you for sharing your perspective on that. I'm going to hop on over to Arnitris. What's one thing you learned about yourself, and would you ever get married again?
One thing that I learned about myself is that I have so much love to give. Left to give. And so that leads into your next question. Absolutely, I will get married again. For a long time, I said that I would not, but yes, I will get married again.
I love it. That's beautiful, Arnitris. Thank you for that. And Corrie, how about you? And you're muted right now.
Oh, yeah. I had to unmute it for a second. So I've learned actually a lot about myself. I think my divorce deconstructed every role I've ever experienced. And so one thing that I can safely say is that I know who I am. So I am very intimate. I love what Leslie mentioned about intimacy and love. I learned how to create that within myself. But growing up, I dated to marry. I was taught that within the marriage relationship is where my worth was found. And so I had to learn that my worth is not found whether or not someone chooses to have me or chooses to love me, right? So I developed the skill sets to do that for myself. And now I'm in this place of 5 young kids. And I believe in love. I believe in a slow burn. I believe in creation. I believe in that there are a stadium full of men that will be able to give me what I want. But as long as I'm true to myself, I have to be honest with me. And where I'm at, marriage doesn't seem like an option right now because I have young kids. I'm I kind of play around with it.
Yeah.
I play around with it because I believe in God is a yes God. And but I've also spent a lot of time, which I would encourage everyone, as I had to redefine what marriage meant to me. How do I maintain my autonomy as a woman in a committed relationship? And that skill I'm still learning. So that's why I'm hesitant to say there's a yes or a no to marriage, because I'm still my own work in progress. And I love that. I love where I'm at. So
that is perfect. So you're in the now.
Yes.
I was hearing a little feedback there. You're in the now, and you're simply, just not necessarily open to marriage, but you are open to what's showing up and learning and all of that. So that's excellent. We are down to like the last minute, but I want to give Stanley one more chance. Stanley, what is there like one sentence you'd like to leave everyone with as we close out today's show? Stanley?
No, I'm just one sentence. I want to piggyback on what Corrie said, and for me, faith. And when I found my wife, I actually moved 800 miles to find a wife. So, and I wanted one, and I wanted to marry for life until death do us part. And I found a woman that was, much better than me. But I really took marriage serious, and I was a little bit older when I did marry. So, you take marriage serious. It's not about breaking up in high school.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely. That's why I think, it can be so devastating, because so many do take it seriously, but things don't always turn out the way that we anticipate. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's here today. Appreciate all of your insights and wisdoms. And wisdoms. I know that with each of you, we could have gone much deeper. Yeah, knocking it out of the ballpark, Stanley. Absolutely. We could have gone deeper with each of you here. And I just thank you for your time. And thank you for everyone who has joined us today out there in the audience. Let us know what you're taking away from today's conversation. So many of you have already shared lots of great comments, and love to see that. And just know that there is always hope. Know that you have permission. Know that you are stronger than maybe you thought you were before, and that there's always more to learn. I'm a big believer in challenging those beliefs, that we may have came into the marriage with, and do those still fit? What is true now for you? There's always hope. Have an amazing day, everybody. We'll see you all again very soon.
Thank
I
you.
want to say thank you for joining us today and welcome you back next Sunday as we once again are joined by a panel of subject matter experts that will explore and focus in on our fabulous lives. Until next Sunday.